Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls Podcast with your host, Jennifer Loading.
And Brianna Dorellis. And together we are the Starter Girls.
Where extraordinary decisions produce extraordinary results. These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills, photographer of Glad Models Agency. If you are here in the Dallas or surrounding area and looking for some photography work, check out Walt Mills. You can learn more about him and his work at photosbywalt.com. Additionally, we want to give a shout out to our friends at The Studio Dallas. The Studio Dallas is the best kept secret in the Dallas podcasting world. If you are looking for a studio with top-notch technology, video, and audio recording capabilities as well, I can't even talk, as well as a team to help things go smoothly, then check out The Studio Dallas. You can learn more about them through our website, not our website, email us at startergirls@gmail.com.
It's one of those days, isn't it? And head over to startergirls.com where you can pick up a free gift. We want to keep in touch with you outside of this podcast. We have something special for you over there. So head over to startergirls.com and pick that up today.
Hey, and we do have to say to our audience, this is like our third show today. We're like...
We've had a little bit of happy juice, sort of, but not really.
The brain cells are starting to escape, but we're going to get things started here. Today is a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up, be amazing, be you, do you. All right, my friends, we are super excited to welcome our guest to the show, and I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of fun today already. This is Sebastian Rusk. He is a podcast launch specialist, digital storyteller, author, speaker, corporate event MC, and online personality. He founded podcastlaunchlab.com in 2016 as a turnkey podcast launch solution for marketers and entrepreneurs that want to start a podcast, and now on a mission to help people tell their story by creating a podcast. His second book, which we need to talk about, Podcast Sucks, launched in December of this past year and is now available. So welcome to the show, Sebastian. We are excited to have you here.
Woohoo!
It's great to be here, ladies. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
No, we're super good to see you. And I'm checking out your t-shirt. You've got your branding going on. I like the marketing. Tell us about...
ABC, baby. ABC. Yeah. Always be closing everywhere you go. Life is enrollment.
Love it. Love it.
Tell us about the new book. Let's just dive right in. Yeah. Tell us about Podcast Sucks, or the yeah, you say it. You're going to do better at this.
Podcasts, plural. Suck. If you don't have one, this is my second book. I wrote my first one in 2013. Was my story of how I started a brand from nothing called Social Media Sucks. If you don't know what you're doing, and years later, I decided to write a second book as I went all in with podcasting back in 2016. I just feel that when you're gifted with a certain amount of knowledge about a specific area, it is your duty to share that knowledge with people that may or may not be able to even ever meet you one day or do business with you. So it's definitely a passion project where I dumped everything that I know about podcasting into a book. I like to tell people, if you read the book, not just read the book, but if you actually do what the book says, you're going to be equipped with everything you need in order to start a podcast. So wrote it with self-publishing school in the SBS family here, and it was a great experience. In addition to having the privilege of being the MC of their event, met a lot of incredible people within the community, including yourself. And it's just been a wild ride. And for some reason, when you write a book, people believe you and take your word for it. So
isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It came out in December. So a lot of fun. I'm working on my third one right now. It's not going to be a business book, though.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah, so the last time that I was telling Jennifer, the last time I saw you, besides what I see on social media, was when you were the MC for the Self-Publishing School AA Live author event. You brought so much energy. So part of your bio says that you MC corporate events. I didn't know if that was your first time to do that or what, but your energy level was off the charts, and it was perfect. It was so great.
I appreciate that. I really do. I've been an MC for the past, I would say, probably 8 years professionally. I started off going, hey, look at me over here. Can I do your event for free? Just let me in the door, let me on stage, or give me the microphone. And I was quickly able to build some solid relationships through that. And I'd say my biggest break I got was with a company called digitalmarketer.com, and they host an event every year called the Traffic and Conversion Summit. And I had the unique ability of being the main MC for TNC for, I believe, 4 years, and built a great relationship with Digital Marketer, and they continued to grow and grow and grow. And then Well, 2020 happened, and they've taken a year off, but it'll be back strong next year. I stopped being their MC in 2018. But it was a phenomenal opportunity. I was able to meet some peers that were in the space of marketing in general, and that really helped me launch the Podcast Launch Lab back in 2016. And it's been a wild ride. It is my gift to be able to share my energy with people at an event. I believe that events, I started doing this because I went to an event back in 2013, and I was there just as media covering it and creating content. And the guy that put the event on asked me if I had any feedback about the event. And I said, absolutely. How open are you to honest feedback? And he goes, no, I'm really open to it. And I said, okay, listen, the content was amazing. Like social media, big brands that are doing social media, what they're doing, how they're doing it was fantastic. But by lunch, on the first day, I wanted to punch myself in the face due to the lack of energy. Okay? There's no music, there's no energy, there's no anything. You're talking about amazing content. Events are not about people talking to people. That happens too. Events are about an experience. You have to leave people different than how you found them. He goes, well, what do you suggest? I go, I suggest you allow me to put my bow tie on the next event coming up, give me the microphone, and let me take over the MC duties. And he said, okay, let me think about it. He called me back a few months later. He said, you know what? Well, I thought about it, and we want to bring you on to do the San Diego event. And he said, but I can't pay you. I said, nobody ever talked about getting paid. I go, I just don't want it to cost me any money. He goes, I'll fly you out, I'll put you up, and I'll feed you. I said, done. And allow me the opportunity to engage and network with the other speakers that were there. Because these are people in the social media space when I was coming up in the game, people like Maury Smith and Mike Stelzner with Social Media Examiner and Jay Baer and Gary V and all these people that I met way back in the day that became friends and mentors in my life. But early on, I didn't know anybody. I was just the new MC there. So as I did that, I did that event for about 2 years, and then just parlayed the relationships from there. And then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this stuff for free anymore. And I had a call from a client about a year and a half later and asked me, oh, how much is it? And I'm like, this much a day. And they're like, all right, cool, let's do it. And then from there, I was able to attract digital marketer. In fact, I found digital marketer on Twitter. I sent Ryan Dice a tweet and said, hey, do you need a guy with a bow tie and way too much energy to MC your event? And he goes, actually, we do. Your timing's perfect. Call me in the morning and book me on the spot. So I don't do as much MC work as I'd like to do, especially now because there's no live events going down. But I feel most alive when I'm on stage. I mean, from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head, I know that I'm truly being able to share my God-given gift with the people that are in that audience, and I'm able to leave people different. And there's an art to it. And the goal of it, the job of an MC is not just to introduce anybody. Anyone can do that. And most events don't have an MC. They're like, well, we'll just have Bill do it from accounts. He does a great job on the holiday party with the announcements. And that's a terrible decision because the idea of bringing an event MC on is to be able to cut time, add time, entertain, infiltrate the crowd with energy, bring people back from lunch, wake people up in the morning, tell people to hang on, happy hour's coming, and keep people engaged while being able to recap the stuff that's going on in between speakers. So it's not the easiest job in town. In fact, most people don't want the job, and I understand why, but I'm passionate about it. I have endless energy, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I agree with you on that because I came from a company where we did company events, and I'm like you, like I like to be on stage and I like talking. And so the thing with me when I go to events, that was always the thing that for me was huge because yes, you're right. You can go into a room where they have great content, but 5 minutes in, if the MC comes up or the person coming up is talking and they don't have me engaged, I'm done. I've shut down. Like I'm not listening. The rest of that event, unless they pull a new speaker in to talk, it's over for me. So I agree with you 100%. I can certainly see the energy. It's like in there right now, like it's trying to come out. I want to ask you a question as a podcast specialist, because obviously we're podcast here, right? And what is the number one thing that you find working with people like that they struggle with in podcasts? Like, what is that thing? Because I know I get questions all the time from people how to start podcasts. And I'm just like, you just do what we did. You go research, you figure it out. Like you just get in there, dive in and figure it out. So what do you feel like is like the big thing that people maybe struggle with in creating or starting one?
Sticking to their word. And actually doing the work.
Yeah.
Creating a mindset to say, listen, I'm going to start a podcast. And the reason I'm starting a podcast is that I've gotten real clear on my why. I've got a story that can impact people's lives. I've got information that I need to share. It's my duty. It's my responsibility to be able to go and do that. And based on that, I'm going to create a podcast. And when I create a podcast, I become a media company. When I become a media company, I maintain control of the content that I'm creating, the relationships that I'm building, the people that I'm interacting with, and how I'm able to monetize that whole process. It's not like it was 25 years ago. If I called you 25 years ago and said, listen, the local FM radio station in Dallas has a Tuesday morning spot at 10 a.m. that you can come on and have a show and market your business, that wouldn't be a question to you. You'd absolutely say yes you'd say yes immediately, and you would figure it out later. You would think about it, sleep on it, pray on it, talk about it, nothing. You would say yes because, radio. Right. But radio is completely irrelevant now, in my opinion. Podcasting's taken over that, number one. Number two, it's taken out the gatekeeper. It's taken out the mother may I, father may I, am I able to do this? Can I do that? How can I do this? And asking all this responsive, all of these, asking permission to do all of this stuff. We live in this world now. It's one of the most exciting times to ever be alive, where we can create content based on how we determine to do it. But I think the biggest hurdle people get is they're in their own way. It's that shoulda, coulda, would. I want to start a podcast. I should start a podcast, but I'm not. And I just think that now is the time. that podcasting's been around for 20 years. That's crazy. And just now gaining popularity. But now's the time for brands and brands, personal brands and business brands to get serious about what it looks like to become a media company. If it's a YouTube channel, launch it. If it's a podcast, do it. Because 5-10 years from now, you're going to look back and go, well, we've had our radio show for this long, and this is exactly what it's been able to do for us. We had no idea in a million years that our podcast would end up turning into this opportunity and that opportunity. And holy cow, without the podcast, none of this would have existed. And that in and of itself, to me, is petrifying for brands that are ignoring the opportunity at hand. And those that are taking advantage of it are going, I always say this, if you launch a podcast today, this time next year, you'll be so glad that you did.
Mm-hmm. I just got chills again.
Yes. Love it.
I'm like, yes, hello. I know. And I think the whole thing with the mindset, because I think that's in everything that you do. It's the mindset. It's like I always joke, you don't walk into the marriage and go, oh, I'm going to try that out. Maybe that works. Maybe that don't. I don't know. You just make a decision and you're going to do that, right? So it's the same thing. You got to make a decision to do it. Because I get a lot of people that ask me about that. They're like, well, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Oh, hold up. Are you thinking? Or are you doing? Are you going to create that? Or are you just researching right now?
Absolutely.
What's the old quote says? It says that the ideas are a dime a dozen. People who implement them are not.
Right.
And I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Are you an action taker or not?
Some days.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I love how you said that, though, because it's also that... Are you actually doing it? But it really comes down to they're probably lazy or it's a lot of work. I mean, it can be a lot of work. So it's kind of like the doubt probably in their mind of thinking, okay, well, what if I do all this work and then I got to spend a year trying to build this podcast up? And I don't know that I'm in for that,
Yeah, what about if you don't do anything and you sit in regret? How painful would that be?
Exactly. But everything's like that. And I think it gets down to, you just got to make a decision that you got to invest. If you're a brand and you're trying to build yourself, you've got to invest in yourself and you're going to put it somewhere. Where are you putting it?
That's right.
Right.
I mean, where are you spending your money?
It's great stuff. So you wrote your first book. You said it was about your life, your first book?
Yeah, so if you can back up, we'll back up real quick. I'll give you the Reader's Digest 30,000 foot perspective on how we got to present day on here. So 2008, the market crashed. We all know what happened there. I was living in Southern California. I was a full-time single dad. I raised my daughter by myself. So we were living in Southern California. The market crashed, and I had a marketing business for real estate professionals. So clearly, I was the first one to panic. So I came back from my best friend's wedding in March of 2008 and quickly realized, you know what, I just need to come back home. I was raised in South Florida in Miami. My mom's here. Family's down here. So let's just come back and start all over. So friends in low places helped me get back from Southern California to Miami. I came back with a duffel bag and my daughter. From 2008 to 2010, I literally just sat around and felt sorry for myself. And then in 2010, I had this big awakening Tony Robbins moment when I literally called a friend of mine that worked for Tony and said, hey, I want to go to his Unleash the Power Within event. Give me all the details. So she did just that. And she called me back a half hour later. And she said, oh my God, I need to introduce you to my best friend. She lives on Miami Beach and she travels with Tony. She's part of his core team. And you guys would totally hit it off. Similar personalities. I said, great, make the introduction. So she makes the introduction. And I had filmed a video I was doing some consulting and trying to figure stuff out in 2010 before starting my business. And I shot a video on my laptop. So I showed her and I said, listen, you're a perfect stranger. We haven't met yet. If I can get your opinion on this, that'd be great. And she replied back. She's like, holy cow, your energy was great on video. And I'm like, really? I shot it with in my living room on my laptop camera. She's like, it's not about the video quality. It's how you were able to show up on camera. You should totally launch a YouTube channel. Anyway, let's grab a cocktail on Friday. We'll talk about it. I said, perfect. So I'll never forget it. This was one of the most pivotal times. This is when it all started to shift, and I started to wake up again, if you will. We're sitting on Ocean Drive on Miami Beach at happy hour, and she's a mover and shaker. You can just tell. I could tell based on where she lived. Like she lived in like one of the nicest condominiums, like on the sand on Miami Beach. Like I just knew how she rolled, so I needed to act as if, at least for the evening. And she said, "So what's next?" And I said, I don't know. And she put her drink down and she looked at me and she goes, well, it's the PG version. That's a problem. And I said, really? Why? I'm not bothering anybody. She goes, exactly. Who's missing out on Sebastian? Because you don't know what you want to do next. And you're just kind of sitting idle and kind of sort of, I mean, you're good with this social media thing. You shot me that video. I mean, there's a lot of buzz around social media. Why don't you start like a TV show on YouTube? And I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Maybe that's what I will do. There's a lot of buzz around social media, social buzz, TV. Hey, how about Social Buzz TV? She goes, I like it. So I sent those 3 words to a designer, which then became the Social Buzz TV logo. So I was like, great. I got a logo and a name and an idea. Now what am I going to do? Well, I know more than most do about social media. So why don't I start educating people about social media? So we'll educate people and we'll do local networking events and boot camps. And then from there, people are going to start to pique people's interest. This is 2011. People will go, well, maybe I need a Facebook page for my business. So that model actually stuck. So I would go to networking events. I started doing my own networking events. I would host a social media boot camp, charge $50 a head, spend 3 hours with people, tell them everything I know. And then they would say, hey, listen, maybe you can help me out with my social media. At that point in time, I mean, I'll come over and wash your car on Saturday. I didn't care as long as you had a budget. But because it took me a year to start to monetize Social Buzz TV. So then I quickly found that, well, once I started the agency, Social Buzz TV is 2-pronged. It's a social media agency that can help businesses facilitate their social media. And I also educate people about it, but it's also a content outlet because I wanted to be an online media outlet. So I was able to get credentials to local events with traditional media. And I'm like, I'm really onto something here. I've got like an online media outlet. During that time, I had gotten pitched on the opportunity to write my first book. So I got my book deal in 2013, and I told that whole story. So it was my very, very early day beginning story where I had a skateboard and a bus pass. I had no money or anything. I just had an undying, burning desire to get back to the top of the mountain. So I did that until Social Buzz TV was cool and everything, but it would break my heart every couple of months because it was so new that I'm selling like a commodity. I'm selling something new that you're going to need eventually. You don't need it to stay in business right now. So it was this constant up and down, but I wrote the book. I'd become an MC. My speaking career had started. I got involved with the National Speakers Association. Things were going good, but I had this constant nudge that I need to continue to work on who I'm becoming as a human being. And this nudge would not go away. I kept on saying, man, if you don't, and just based on feedback, whether it's family or it's relationships or whatever it might be, I just got this nudge that there's more work to be done. I need to become the best version of myself because otherwise I'm just going to mess it all up. So in 2015 or 2016, I took a course that radically changed my life and taught me self-love and able to go and peel past traumas and the whole nine. And it all got started based on a girl that I met on a dating app. And I met her on an app for a clear reason. It was her job to get me to the doors of that training. She broke up with me in the middle of the training, but that's a whole other story. But I got through the training and my life was forever changed based on the new insight that I had and the healing that I'd done with myself. And on the back of that, I was able to come out and find my niche in the world of social media because I wanted to become the best version of myself, but I also wanted to find my place in this world of social media because the last thing I wanted to be known as was a social media guy. So I'm like, there's got to be more there. So I got done with the training. I woke back up and got back into the game and said, okay, I dusted myself off. Went and got a space in a co-working space in late 2016. And I ran into a friend and she said, she had an internet radio show at the time. I said, what the hell is that? And she goes, well, they got an internet radio show and they turn it into a podcast and create content. I go, great. How's it going? And she said, good. And I said, how do you know? And she goes, I don't. So I walked her down to her car and she goes, I'll never forget. She poked him in my chest and goes, why don't you create a solution to help people start a podcast? And I was like, not a bad idea. I think that's my second recommendation from the world to actually do something. So I went back upstairs and I started to map out what would become the podcast launch lab. I go, it's going to be a turnkey podcast launch solution that's going to help people start a podcast in 30 days with their first 4 episodes and their intro and their outro and their background music and the branding and the name and the whole nine. And then once we launch the show, we'll put them in the podcast launch lab network and we'll start to build a network and then we'll just rinse and repeat that process. And that's exactly what started to happen. The challenge was that I didn't know who my ideal client was. That took me about a year and a half to figure out. So by the end of 2018, I had gone all in with podcasting, and I quickly realized that my ideal client was somebody just like me. It was a marketer, an entrepreneur. If we wanted to add a subcategory to that, it would be author, speaker, coach, person of authority that knows their natural next step is to start a podcast. So opened a studio at the end of 2019, and then COVID hit. And then here we are, present day. Everyone and their brother wants to start a podcast. So I've gone completely all in, blinders on, outside of my personal brand, which I do speak on the topic of digital storytelling with podcasting. And then my MC work, I am all in with podcasting as a full-time podcaster with my own show. And then in addition to that, running the agency here of helping people start a podcast and make their podcasting dreams a reality. And in the process of doing that, every show that we launch becomes a podcast network. And then from there, we're able to start facilitating other services like matchmakers with advertisers and sponsors and biz dev deals and revenue share deals and guest booking and research, etc. And then we're going to beat this thing up and sell it for $654 million to Spotify or Apple or somebody. And then,
very cool.
Party rock.
Well, you answered my question because I was going to ask you to tell me about Podcast Launch Lab here. So you answered that one. But You know what, Sebastian? The other day, one of my friends, he was a guest on our show, and he's coming back on in June. He's got a show, and I readily ran him. I can't remember what it's called, but Larry, I'm drawing a blank who he is. I saw him share one of your posts just the other day, and I was like,
oh, Larry Roberts.
Yes, Larry, he's my friend.
Big Larry.
Yes,
yeah.
he's got the amazing radio voice. Like he's got another one, got a really good podcast voice. He's actually coming back on our show in June. He was on a few
I've got a great
ago.
face for podcasting too. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
We love it.
Hey, so here's a fun, crazy fact that I think about daily, and it's pretty funny. I was raised in a radio station, so my dad was a DJ for 30 years, and I had zero intentions of following in his footsteps. Like, we don't even have a relationship. We got a father-son relationship, but it's not like I really want to follow in Dad's footsteps. It never worked like that. But I was on a golf course a couple weeks ago, and I told my buddy that story, and he looked at me and he said, "Sebastian, our genes sure are powerful, aren't they?" And
yeah.
I thought, whoa. I never even thought about that. So anyway, I still trade notes now with my dad this day. He still does a radio show in his retirement days, and he does his thing down at the radio station. But I was like, well, here's what we do in the 21st century. So he's always asking me about, ways to edit stuff and this, that, and the other. So it's kind of funny how the tables ended up turning here. But yeah, podcasting is my life's work, and I'm really glad that it found me and that I found it.
Great story. Really, really great.
It is. Good story.
Hey, so I want to ask you an interesting question. I would love to know, I'm a reality singing show girl over here, but I hear that you're a reality TV guy. I hear you were on
Should I get my guitar?
I hear you were on a show, and I want to hear all about it.
Oh, God, this is a great story. So this was I think it was 2012. I'm at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon. So I was all bow tied up anyway, and I get a call from a friend of mine. She goes, "Hey, we're casting for a new show on Fox. It's a dating show, and the producer wants wants somebody with a bow tie." And I was like, "Great pitch." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "So I go, so what are the details?" She goes, "Can you come to the beach at 3:00 for a screen test?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what that is, but yes, I'm in." So I get to this apartment complex, and I'm like, what are they filming here? We're filming at somebody's apartment? So what's going on here? So I get there, and they ask me 152 different questions. We do a quick screen test, screen read, this, that, and the other. And a day later, they call back and they go, "Producer loved you." They never tell you that you're booked on the show, ever. Like, never. They just go, "The producer really liked your screen test," or whatever they tell you, and we need to get you a round of paperwork so that we can move on to the next process on here, so that we can see if they're going to actually choose you. So I went and did that, and then as you know, Hollywood is hurry up and wait. So all I knew was it was going to be a show on Fox, primetime slot. George Lopez was the host. It was myself and 30 women. The answer is yes, I'm in. So It was more hurry up and wait. I filled out a bunch of paperwork. Then I'm on a hush order. I can't talk about anything. It was cool for the brand part because I was like, hey, I got some stuff coming. Can't talk about it. Got some stuff coming. And I'm flying all over the place. And people are like, what's going on with this guy? Where's he going? So the first one was they called on a like a Wednesday. And they said, hey. So they make you hurry up and wait. That's their motto. And then it's the executive producers want to meet with you. But instead of flying you to LA, we can do New York. But we need you to keep Friday to Sunday open. We're not sure which day we're going to send you yet. I said, oh, okay. Like, just keep it open because we could call tomorrow morning and we need you to leave immediately. So they could care less about your schedule either. So anyway, just so happened, I'm in touch with the production team, et cetera. And they said the EPs want to meet you in New York. It's going to be a day trip. We're going to actually do it on Sunday. So you'll leave Sunday morning, 6 a.m. We'll have you home by 7 p.m. I'm like, no problem at all. So, flew to New York, met with the producers. My meeting was 10 minutes long. They were like, why do you want to be on reality television? I'm like, why not? And they're like, why are you looking for love on television? I'm like, I'm not. And I was, and then I said, listen, here's the deal. Okay. Ryan Seacrest is my mentor. And if this show's on Fox and it's filming in LA and it's going to be in a prime time slot, the odds of Seacrest having been in that same sound studio is awesome. And I want the same experience that he's actually had. And if I run into him, that's even better. I know that's not what you guys want to hear as EPs, and I'm willing to play the role on here. What have we got to do to get on here and do the whole deal? But that's the real reason why. And they're like, all right, cool. Excellent. Sounds great. We'll see you soon. They still don't tell you what's what. So they're supposed to come and shoot my whole life package or in Miami. Like, what's Sebastian up to when he's not finding love? Well, they call me after that and they said, we can't get a film crew to Miami. So we're going to fly you and your daughter to LA and we're going to recreate Miami and LA. And I'm like, oh, okay. Sounds great. So I'm like, come on, Kayla, we're flying to Los Angeles. She's like, really? So we get there and it films in Culver City. And we filmed my entire life package in LA, but made it look like Miami. It was kind of fun. It was in Culver City. It was at the production studio that was the house that was used in Gone with the Wind. Fun little fact. Anyway, so I got to do that with my daughter and came back here. And then I flew back to LA for us to film the show. They still don't know anything. The guys are separated from the girls. And everybody's all the guys are at one hotel. Girls are at another hotel. None of the guys know why we're there. We're all talking. And we sat in a green room for 11 hours straight. I think they shot 7 weeks or 8 weeks in that one day. But it was still we didn't know if any of your buddies got a date. If you did get a date. So it was the format was if you got a date, you would go on to a second date. And then that was it. It wasn't like The Bachelor where there was 12 guys. So there were 30 girls and 12 guys, and there were 2 guys per episode. So I finally filmed at 11 p.m. that night. So we got in at 9 a.m. We got into the green room at 11 a.m. And then I filmed at 11 p.m. on there. So, and I did not get a date, but that's because I really didn't want to get a date because I didn't care about going to the second one, because when I was in New York and I'm bored in a plane to come back home, I met a girl and we totally hit it off. So we started dating and I'm like, well, what happened was I'm flying to LA because I'm on a dating show with 30 women. Is that cool? And she's like, yeah, just don't touch them. I'm like, okay, cool. No problem. So when I got there, I was like, I really don't want a date. Let's just get through this whole episode. So anyway, got through it, didn't get a date. If you do get a date, then you walk off stage with the song 2 Tickets to Paradise playing. You got your date and the whole night. If you don't,
I know this show.
You walk. Yeah, it's called Take Me Out. You walk to the top of the stage and they start playing All by Myself and you wave like the saddest guy in America with no date. And I did that and I was supposed to do it for for 10. I was supposed to be there for 5 seconds and the stagehand was I was on there for 10 15 seconds the whole night. But anyway, it was a great experience. I got lifelong friends. George Lopez was an absolute dream to work with. The guy is absolutely hysterical. Sound stages in Hollywood are 40 degrees, very unpleasant, especially when you have to clap your hands. But I did it. I chalked it up to experience, and it was the hardest $250 I've ever earned.
Yeah, wow.
Oh my gosh.
I'll send you the video.
We learned a lot. That's awesome.
Sure did. Hilarious.
Well, I just thought that I was there. I got the opportunity to I studied Seacrest for years. I studied TiVo, the whole nine. I've never met him, never had the opportunity to do it, but I will one day. But I studied his mannerisms, and he's just he doesn't mess up. And the way he takes the stage and how he holds the mic and how he speaks to people and how he responds and where his face at and his facial expressions and the whole, dim the lights, the votes are in. So, that was the main reason that I did it.
So awesome.
To get my Seacrest on.
I love it.
Very cool. Very cool, so Sebastian.
This has been hilarious.
Yeah.
I've loved having you, Sebastian, and we're so excited about this book, this podcast launch lab. You're doing amazing things. I've been following you since the AA Live event, and honestly, I've been thinking to myself, how did I not know who you were before the SPS event? Like, because I just feel like you're all over the place. It's amazing. I just love it. It's very, very cool.
That's funny how things
so
work out, right?
So,
yeah,
it really is. It really. This world is teeny tiny. That is for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you for coming on here and sharing all this great stuff with us. I'm definitely going to have to check out your, see what this podcast is and follow some of your stuff that you're doing. I thought that was funny that Larry put something up the other day because I didn't know who you were either. And then she says this Sebastian's coming on. And then I see Larry put up a post on there. And I'm like, well, how does Larry know Sebastian now? And I don't know Sebastian. How does that
You were
happen?
getting a little FOMO, Jennifer.
Apparently.
Jennifer was getting a little FOMO.
Apparently.
Okay, so where do we
It only
get
takes.
people?
It only takes 15 years to build a brand. Nothing crazy.
Hey, right. Well, we admire you for that. So keep up the good work. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's why I appreciate that. Thank you
send
so
our
much.
listeners to check you out. So tell us the best places where tell us where we need to send them.
Sure. So I spend a majority of my time on Instagram and on LinkedIn, Facebook too, but Facebook's like the new backyard barbecue. But LinkedIn, you search for me by name, Sebastian Rusk, or Instagram, I'm Podcast Launch Guy, just like it sounds. And if you've been listening to this and you're thinking, holy cow, I'm glad I watched this because I want to start a podcast and I would love to have a conversation with Sebastian, I'll sit down with anybody for 10 minutes and talk to them about their crazy idea on how to start a podcast. So if you'd like to do that, you can access my calendar at podcastlaunchlabnow.com. That's podcastlaunchlabnow.com. And I'd love to have a conversation on what's possible to work together. Or if you just have thoughts, ideas, questions about starting a podcast, feel free to slide into the DMs. I'm here to serve people and share my gift with people and leave them different. So
Very cool. We'll make sure too when this goes out after we do all the edits and get it put together. We'll make sure that all the connections are there so they know where to find you. We'll get them all there. So it's been fun. Thanks
super
for sharing.
duper.
Yeah, sharing all these cool stories. Awesome stuff.
No, it's been great to hang out here. I know we had a couple reschedules here, so I'm glad we're finally able to get it on the calendar and get it rocking and rolling here. So
hey, life
Absolutely.
happens. We get it.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate
life
you.
definitely happens. So I'll drink to that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Beam me up, Scotty. Yeah.
We do want to say to our listeners, of course, if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure you give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook because we can't do this without you. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube.
And
yeah.
Yep. Don't forget to head over to startergirlswithaz.com. Pick up your free gift so we can keep in touch.
That's right. We're going to leave you with a couple final thoughts here. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And that is by Viktor Frankl. All right. And as we always say, in order to have success, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. All right. You guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We will see you next time.